to our crowds, both here and virtual crowds. The meeting will be live streamed to the council website. Councillors, if you need to leave early, then hopefully we'll be finished fairly early. But if you do need to leave early, then please let Dominic or Sean know. Can you please make sure that your phones are turned to silent? I think mine already is. All votes at this meeting will be recorded as we require under our standing orders. Morning tea will be at 10:30 in the unlikely event that we are still going by 10:30. I have no apologies. Councillor Rush is here, so he's made it. Very well, you made it. Anyway, good to have you here, Councillor Rush. Right, announcements by the Mayor. So three that I wanted to make. The first one of them is just to say thank you for those of you who were able to go this morning to say Karanga and Karakia for Ovation as she entered Wellington Harbour. There was a bit of toing and froing yesterday about how it was best to acknowledge and welcome the vessel, because obviously there will be people on the ship who will be, feeling pretty bruised, and so it was appropriate to do that. There was some thought that it would be done at Centreport, but apparently that was just too difficult in terms of security and other arrangements. So this was the way in which it was done. So thank you, and Jill, thank you for your part in that. Sorry I wasn't able to get out there this morning. There's going to be enough early mornings this week anyway, so. Which takes me to the second one, which is Waitohi. So for a second early morning of the week, for those of you who are keen to do that, we are there at 4:45 a.m. on Saturday morning for the opening of Waitohi. It looks, I had a look around with the staff during the week. It looks stunning, really high quality architecture, great design, a lot of attention paid to detail, and it'll be a fantastic facility for the city and for the northern suburbs. And the other one is just to say it is Christmas, or will be Christmas soon, and just to wish you all a very, very happy Christmas. I know it's been a long year, both in the past triennium, through the election campaign and the start of this triennium, but I hope that you all have a wonderful, safe, happy Christmas, and one, you are feeling rejuvenated by and you enjoy, and then we can start the new year with a rush and feeling with a hiss and a roar then. Okay, conflict of interest declarations, are there any? I see none. Confirmation of the minutes. Now that we made a slight error, well, it was an error that should have been not made, but because there were so many different versions of the appointments process, we made a slight error in that we appointed me to the Karori Sanctuary Trust Board when there wasn't a vacancy to do that. There was never the intention to do that anyway, so the idea was that that I was the guardian and that Terry was my alternate. So that is what we're going to correct the minutes to say. So I'm going to move the motion that the council corrects the minutes of the last meeting, and that we approve the minutes subject to that correction. So I'll move that. Terry, you want to say that? Okay, thank you. I'll put that. Push the button in the usual way. We have a public person. Right, okay, cool. Right, good. All done? Right. Okay, there are no items not on the agenda. Now, public participation, we have two public participants here. Normally, the rule for council meetings is that the item has to be on the council agenda. The Strategy and Policy Committee, it merely has to be within the terms of reference of the committee, so it doesn't have to be on the agenda. However, these ones were requests to council, and I could have sent them to Strategy and Policy, but looking at the agenda yesterday, I said, no, we'll take them here. I mean, we all hear them anyway, but it just seemed to be a more sensible use of our time to do it that way. So, Fiona Prestidge, who is going to be speaking to us regarding limited notification of the application for consent to have airport operations at the former Miramar South School.
And Brenda Wallace.
Oh, and Brenda Wallace. Hi, Brenda. Right, okay, Brenda, you have 5 minutes. We look forward to hearing from you. The clock will be going shortly. If you start early, you might get some bonus time. Oh, there we go. Right, we're on.
Thank you.
And if you want to leave time for questions, please do.
Thank you, Your Worship and Councillors. Kia ora koutou.
I'm Fiona Prestidge, a resident of Cuba Street, Miramar, and this is Brenda Wallace, one of my neighbours. She lives on Miro Street. We are opposite the former Miramar South School site, which is land designated outer residential. Our few minutes this morning is to bring our perspective of barriers to engagement in the consenting process. We want Council to enable meaningful public participation and not just pay lip service to it. In late October, us residents surrounding the former school site received limited notification of resource consent for airport proposal for use of that residential land across the road from us for airport operations. This informed us of our right to make a submission, and we were given a 4-week thereabouts deadline. Some of us residents who received this limited notification rallied around to try and make sense of what was going on. There was no guide to what was happening. There was no public information. We felt so disempowered. We did a widespread letterbox drop across the peninsula and posted key documents on a website we created to enable others to be informed, and held a public meeting where around 60 people attended. Nearly all of us neighbours share the same views about the negative effects that would occur with the airport's proposal, but few of us had any confidence or ability themselves to engage in the process. For some of these residents, English is a second language, which further limits the ability to exercise the rights to engage in the submission process. There was no support from Council to assist us, other than 2 councillors and the Chief Planner attending the public meeting, but this was way too little, too late. We are ordinary people, not lawyers or planning experts, yet we are facing the well-resourced airport company, the council machine with its arm's length processes, and of course the perception of conflict of interest with Council being a shareholder in the airport company. We feel that Council should and must do better. Our view is that there should be meaningful, proactive support from Council for such situations as we are experiencing. Council must represent the interests of residents of Wellington as well as businesses. Council should provide independent expert assistance to support notified residents' participation in resource consent submission processes. Doing this could give some capability for residents to exercise democratic rights to engage in these important regulatory processes such as we are facing. Inviting submissions is surely only a token gesture if there is not accessible, practical expert support. Disempowered residents have no voice, and Council should do better. We're open to any questions. Thank you.
Fiona, thank you for that, and for leaving some time for questions. One thing we are doing is we are having a review of our delegations process, which might be able to pick some of these things up as well. So that's going to come back to us in late February. Terry, Councillor O'Neill, sorry.
Yeah, kia ora. I just wanted...
I think you can stand for questions. We should be standing.
Okay. Yeah, kia ora. Thank you, Fiona and Brenda, for your presentation as well. I attended the meeting with you, and I firstly just want to commend you for being able to organise a community like that when you saw a particular issue, and certainly what I saw was a really, really strong program developed by residents. I just have a question around this is a piece of land that is being considered under the Public Works Act rather than the RMA, so the consultation is different in terms of the level of priorities. But in your experience as people that have been really affected by this decision, do you think that Council needs to do a little bit more when discussing the acts that are in play around consultation so that people know when is appropriate to engage? Because I also note that there's dare I say, problem with iwi engagement with this as well under this particular line of consultation?
Because when we received the package in the letterbox, we didn't know what the status of the land was. We knew nothing of what the Crown decisions had been made. Iwi contact, had there been right of refusal, it wasn't until on the day of the public meeting, which was, I think, 4 days out from the deadline of the submissions, that we heard from an iwi contact from them, and I had a response to an Official Information Act request through Land Information New Zealand to find out what the Crown decisions were.
So it was a massive research project for us.
We just didn't, there was not public information.
Which is things that your staff knew, and if we were being told this is Public Works Act, but RMA under the rezoning, but it's not rezoning, it's a designation rather than a rezoning, so the zoning rules don't apply. why. This is stuff I knew nothing about, these rules. They're really convoluted. District plans like this big, and I had 4 weeks and I was not available for 2 of those, and it's huge.
And lots of people, very busy lives, but it was, I guess, those few days out, the public meeting, and Chief Planner gave some clarity about what we could and couldn't do, because all of a sudden at that last, it felt like at 11th hour, we got some facts and we began to understand it.
It was awesome.
But we'd been working so hard trying to do that, but we still, in reality, are not lawyers, haven't got the finances behind us to actually know how to submit most effectively to have our voice heard. We just had to do it ourselves, which we've done.
We learn a lot, but...
Yeah, Fiona, Brenda, thank you very much for bringing that to our attention. Would it be useful for you to get some more information from Council at this point in time? Is there things you still would like to know?
I guess we haven't heard what's happening, so an update at least would be appreciated for those of us who have submitted.
We will arrange for that.
I'd love you to design this process better.
Yep. No, thank you very much. Really appreciate that. Jerry Paul, Festival Director of Cuba Duper, who's you've got, as an organisation, you have 10 minutes. So welcome, Jerry.
Let's figure out how to get this. Morena.
Morena.
No mai, haere mai, tēnā koutou, Mayor Foster, councillors, thank you very much for having me speak today. We'll just figure out how to get this going. Is there Dominic?
Oh, right, yes, sorry.
My name is Jerry Paul. I'm the director of Cuba Duper. I must say it's my dream job and the grooviest street in my favourite city in the world, Cuba Street. I've got a long association with the street. I started busking outside 107 Cuba Street at 8 years old, while my great uncle Patrick O'Connor would drink upstairs in the Workmen's Club and check me every half an hour. Cuba Street is a street that celebrates diversity, creativity, independent spirit, and also community. And Cuba Duper is a celebration of all of those qualities in an open access free street festival, which happens on the last weekend of March. We bring together over 1,500 artists from around the world, from around Aotearoa and of course Wellington. Any luck with that, Dominic? Sorry. Do I press play or?
Is it not? No, it's not on the screen. Oh.
I'll keep on going while.
Sorry, it's on this screen here, but it's on Dominic's screen, but no other screen. There we
are. So there's our wonderful Cuba Street. For a second, I'd like to reflect back on Cuba Duper 2019, where due to the tragedies in Christchurch, we took Cuba Duper off the street. What it showed us was a few things. Firstly, the great support we have within the community, from the City Council, from Wellington NZ, from all of our sponsors and major stakeholders, from the artists who were so adaptable and just went with the changes, and to the public. And if you made it along to the Opera House or Glover Park or Hannah's Courtyard, you will have seen that the Cuba Duper spirit actually transcended the format of the festival. So we're back on the streets in 2020 with a beautiful disruption, as those of you who heard about the traffic management plan last week will probably agree. We've got our most ambitious, boldest festival ever, and we're going to be hitting the streets. One project that I'd like to tell you about is called Cuba Sonic. Now, Cuba Sonic is composed by world-renowned composer John Passathis. It's a way of uniting the entire Cuba precinct at once. So imagine this, from the Abel Smith intersection with Cuba Street all the way down to the Bucket Fountain. Nearly 500 musicians from the New Zealand Symphony Orchestra, Orchestra Wellington, the Royal New Zealand Air Force Band, over 200 Batakata drummers, taiko drummers, 3 bands on the stages, all playing the same amazing piece of music, which is going to be 10 minutes long. Now, as well as all those musicians, 20 conductors up the street, the bands on stages, there's an overhead sound system with 62 speakers, all with individual outputs, so we can move sound up and down the street. It's also to keep the musicians in time. Part of that backing track is going to be a Tesla coil developed by Wellingtonian Josh Bailey, the first Tesla in the world to be able to play polyphonic notes. John Passathis has said, if you think it's bigger than Ben Hare, it is. So that's one of our huge projects. I'm sorry I'm racing, but there's lots to get through. Our music program is really exciting. Troy Kingy, he just won the Māori Musician of the Year at the New Zealand Music Awards. The East Pointers are coming straight from headlining Woodford Folk Festival. They're a Canadian band. Jess B, the Queen of New Zealand hip hop. Half Caste, the most surprising and exciting young Wellington band I've seen for years. We've got a theme this year of intergalactic madness. In the Wellington Company Hannah's Courtyard, we're going to have an intergalactic stage. We've got the National Body Art Awards coming to Cuba Duper this year. We'll have over 50 body-painted models walking down the street, led by this band Big Nazo, who've been supported by the US Embassy. They're coming out from the Rhode Island School of Design. The Wellington's very own alien junk monsters, who'll be no strangers to you. Just up the road in the Wilson car park on Leeds and Gusney Street, we've got a circus and cabaret zone where we're going to have short format 20-minute circus performances for families from midday till 6 p.m. Then it turns a bit saucy with a cabaret program from 6 p.m. to midnight. Of course, we've got the Wilson Street Feast, which is going to have over 120 food vendors lined the length of Cuba Street. So if you came for the food alone, you wouldn't go away disappointed. In the Upper Cuba area this year, we've got the Upper Cuba Soundsphere, where we've got Laundry Bar doing a house music stage. Down by Raglan Roast, the guys from Tani Fazdena putting on a techno stage. The Samba Zone, which will go up Calvin Grove, over the backwood of a Jamaican sound system out the other side of the Third Eye. Heyday are doing a disco, funk and soul stage. And then in the high race car park, we've got Shamble Lands, which is the ping pong party people, so you can come and try to be the king of ping at Cuba Duper. Or we've got the Cuba Chapel, where we've got weddings and funerals. So you can either go and get dressed up and have a themed wedding at Cuba Duper, and we are actually looking for a couple to have a real wedding. Or if you've ever wondered what it's like to be at your own funeral, you can lie in a coffin, have your friends throw flowers over you and talk about how wonderful you were. In terms of stages, we've got the Wellington Airport Swan stage, Glover stage that we're presenting in conjunction with Massey University this year, the Garage Project Wild Workshop stage, Hotel Bristol, the Capital Blues stage. We've got a heavy metal stage this year after the success of Tadeo thrash metal band Alien Weaponry last year. Pride Festival are partnering with us to present a rainbow program, and also the Zeal AU stage this year as well. So lots of exciting new partnerships. We'll have over 30 parades over the weekend, and as well as the Batakata ones that, you know, Cuba Duper is famous for, we're also introducing Kapa Haka parades this year from different secondary school groups around the region. We've got a spotlight on accessibility this year, both from an attendee point of view. We've been doing workshops about how we can better facilitate people with accessibility needs at Cuba Duper, including probably the first festival to have an audio map to lead you through the festival, and rest zones, and I could talk for a while about that, but also two artists, Lucy Fiver, who's choreographing a piece based on the Samoan tradition of the taupo, and that's going to be a procession up Cuba Street with Pacific and Samoan dancers and singers. Also Rodney Bell, who's one of the country's best dancers, he's in a wheelchair and he's going to be hanging between off a high wire over Glover Street, dancing with his aerial dance partner, so fantastic. We've got so much dance, again, flash mobs, Deirdre Tarrant up there with her dancers, Footnote with a Peace Corps street chants, we've got the Solid Gold dance system, the Born to Dance bitches, Footnote, I mentioned them, and Shut Up and Dance. This one, visual arts and installations, we've got a visual arts program that we're working in conjunction with Mark Amery this year, who's a wonderful curator and arts critic. Exciting partnerships with our City Gallery, where we're flying a piece of Elizabeth Poynton's art over the top of Cuba Duper behind a plane after Cuba Sonic. We're partnering with Object Space in Auckland to bring a Congolese artist down here. So that's, and also Art Explorer, which will lead through all of the galleries in the Cuba precinct. In terms of international partnerships, I mentioned the US Embassy generously supporting bringing Big Nazo from America, the Australian High Commission, who are helping us bring out a few bands over, including 3-Speed Crunchbox, who are a circus group, from Canada, the Canadian High Commission supporting bringing the East Pointers. The new Irish ambassador is bringing out Barry Jazz Finnegan, who's a photorealist artist, who's going to be working in local businesses. And also we've got a new partnership, just the last week or so, the Asian New Zealand Foundation, to present an Asian program at Cuba Duper. In terms of sustainability, and we'll be getting tips from Laurie on this, but last year we diverted over 72.9% from landfill, and we're looking to increase that this year. Of course, initiatives like the Global Cups to avoid single-use cups. We've also got a donated tree thing happening this year to try and offset our carbon footprint. We're working with Trees Who Count, and it's an opportunity for people to be able to donate to the festival and offset a carbon footprint. And we'll be having a little event in June called the Seeding, where we'll be planting trees with volunteers in the community that have donated them. We're going to have a Cuba Duper app this year, which will mean it'll increase the user experience, make it easier to navigate your way around this program and the vendors and the site. And it's also for a way for us to be able to shout out to our sponsors and partners. And speaking of which, a big thank you to our ongoing partners, Wellington NZ, the Wellington Airport, the Wellington Community Trust. We've got new partnerships with Victoria and Massady, as I said. The RAF Fund, which obviously the City Council contributes to, ANZ. We've got a new branding this year, thanks to Cato Brand Partners, around this beautiful disruption, and the Wellington Company, who have generously supported us since the beginning. We couldn't do it. I mean, to put on a free festival that's, of this scale, we just depend on these partnerships. So thank you very much. I've left 24 seconds for questions. So.
Brilliant. Hey, well done. I'll take the two. I'll take 3 questions then. Okay, give that. So, Councillors Calvert, I had a hand up over there. Who had Sparrow and Rush.
Thank you, and it just gets better every year, I think. You're doing a fantastic job. One of the things that I've noticed, I think it's a great regional event, and it'll grow and grow, hopefully, and the work you're doing shows that. But we also have the Newtown Festival, one or a couple of weeks before, after, I can't remember the timing, and which is it's almost outgrowing its site. How do you have any connection with them at all, or
I've been meeting up with Martin and Anna actually over the last couple of months a few times. I mean, a lot of it is social gatherings, but we're also sharing information, obviously around security, traffic management, if there's any way we can collaborate with international artists, and also kind of pitch together to try and reduce any costs as well, around. So we're having ongoing conversations with Newtown, a great festival that I usually play music at each year. And I mean, we're so lucky in Wellington having 2 festivals like this. People from Auckland come down and say, there's nothing like this up there,
Yeah.
So we're really spoilt here.
Thank you.
Yes, I'd just like to thank you, congratulate you on a great selling job. Just a quick question. How many people are actually, it's quite exhausting listening to all that, how many people are involved in organising the whole operation?
So we've got a small core team of 5 people on the Cuba Duper team. Myself as director, we've got a coordinator, a marketing manager and site, and then production managers. But we've got a wider team, including the likes of Simon Perry from Wellington NZ, who really help us on an operations level. And our sister organisation, Fringe Festival, we share volunteer managers across that. So closer to the festival, a lot of seasonal contractors come in, and there's also over 100 volunteers that help us run things on the day as well. But if you start including all the people involved with traffic management and the waste warriors, it grows to hundreds and hundreds over the weekend.
Thank you. More of an observation. That's a remarkable presentation. And what I'd just like to remind councillors, my colleagues, we've talked a lot in the last few days about the challenges we have around our buildings, but the vibrancy that this city has is all about the people. Buildings are interesting, and they can be the facilitators, but it's all about the people.
I'm not sure there was a question in that one, but anyway.
Response to it, we're one of our marketing little projects this year is called the Cuba People, and it's by a photographer called Andy Spain, who's photographed all of Cuba Street. Now he's doing the people of Cuba Street with a particular focus of the workers washing dishes in the back end of the kitchen. So,
Jerry, look, thank you. We really appreciate that. It just sounds absolutely awesome, and we will look forward to it. So well done. Okay, right, cool. Didn't think it was. Right. Okay, councillors, we will move to the first agenda item, and that is the remuneration of directors and trustees for council-controlled organisations and for finance, audit and risk subcommittee. So I'm going to move those. You'll see that the The last time that there was an increase in remuneration was in January 2014. I thought we usually would have done these every 3 years, but obviously it's a bit of a catch-up here. They are at the low end of the market, which means it's reflecting the public good element there. And the other thing just to note, that, of course, is that councillors under our current policy do not get paid if they are trustees or directors of any of these companies. So I will move, looking for somebody to second. Councillor Fitzsimons, do you wish to speak?
Yeah, thank you. I'm very happy to second this paper. I'm just, in terms of the appointments to the Finance, Audit and Risk Subcommittee, just a plea that there is wide consultation with the Council about those appointments before they're made.
Thank you. And look, we will deal with the appointments in PE. Okay. Right. If people would vote in the usual manner. Okay. Right, okay, thank you. Okay. I've just been asked before I move on to the next paper, which I'm going to call Councillor Sparrow to introduce, is if I could give the dates for Cuba Duper, which is Saturday the 28th and Sunday the 29th of March. So thank you, Nicola. Councillor Sparrow.
Thank you, Your Worship. Yeah, this is a straightforward case of the owner of 56 Maidavale Road, Roseneath, wanting to purchase from council approximately 39 square metres of unformed legal road adjoining their property. So I move the recommendations in front of us.
Seconded by Councillor Matthews. Thank you. Do you wish to speak? Does anybody wish to speak? No, we'll put the recommendations then. Okay. Was that both of them? That was both, wasn't it? No, it's just the first one. Okay, right. I think we're just waiting for you, Councillor Sparrow. Done? Yep. Done? Right, cool. Okay, Councillor Sparrow, you'd like to introduce the second item?
Yes, I've been told to introduce them separately. So another straightforward one. The owner of 181 Clyde Street, Island Bay, wishes to purchase from council approximately 34 square metres of unformed legal road adjoining their property. I move the recommendations in front of us for this one too.
Seconded by Councillor Fitzsimons. Thank you. Do you wish to speak? Does anybody wish to speak? Okay, we will vote then. Councillor Rush? Yeah, no. Thank you. Right. Now, councillors, there was on the agenda the report of the Strategy and Policy Committee meeting of yesterday, but there was nothing that was required coming to council, so there is nothing to debate there, which takes us to the public excluded item. Just make sure that there's nothing else in front of that. No, we're all good. Right, okay. So the recommendations there are to move into public excluded, and we will need to turn off the recording devices. So pursuant to the provisions of the Local Government Official Information and Meetings Act 1987,